Go. King Victor Emmanuel II is seated at his throne. A reporter enters and the king motions for him to sit.
Thank you, Your Majesty, for agreeing to this interview. The readers of European History Times would be fascinated to hear your description of how you became the ruler of a united Italy.
It's my pleasure to set the record straight. What would you like to know?
When you became king of Piedmont in 1849, did you have any idea that you would oversee the unification of Italy?
When I became king, most Italians thought of themselves as citizens of their own separate states. Many didn't think of themselves as Italians at all.
What changed their minds?
One man was responsible for spreading Italian nationalism. His name was Giuseppe Mazzini.
Mazzini and his fellow nationalists are seated comfortably in a London drawing room. They are very passionate nationalists who want freedom and unity for Italy. The time is right to create an uprising in Naples.
Ah, yes, my homeland, you're right. The Neapolitans hate their king. They're ready for revolution.
Why do you think this revolt will succeed when all the others we've sponsored have failed? We must not lose faith. The people of Naples are eager to throw off their Bourbon oppressors.
Of course they are. Back in 1848, the revolt against Ferdinand II set off revolutions throughout Europe.
Yes, but their uprising ended in disaster. How can we hope to succeed if every time we stir up a revolt, the Austrian or French armies come in and put it down?
What do you suggest?
King Victor Emmanuel and his prime minister, Count Cavour, in Piedmont, have the army and diplomatic position to lead the unification of Italy. You mean to conquer Italy.
All of our attempts to stir up the Italian people to rise up and unite as a republic have failed. It's not going to happen. We have to give up on the idea of an Italian republic and focus on our goal of unification. We cannot give up on our principles. We must keep trying. But the governments of Europe fear our call for a republic. They think it will encourage their own subjects to rise up against them. We must feel much safer if we were united under a constitutional monarchy of King Victor Emmanuel.
You are all missing the point. Why do citizens join these revolts? To better their living conditions. They need to eat. Workers in the cities slave away in factories 16 hours a day and can't feed their families. Landlords demand exorbitant rents for starving peasants. So you're saying we should abandon our goals of independence and unity? I am saying we must first help the peasants and workers rise up against the classes that oppress them.
But in a united republic, Italy, all classes will benefit.
You are raising false hopes. Only after the wealthy classes have been overthrown should we focus on unification.
We must be practical. The only way to achieve independence and unification is under the leadership of Prime Minister Cavour in Piedmont. We'll continue our struggle. Now let's make the plans for the insurrection of Naples. We return to a later date with Victor Emmanuel and the reporter.
So you're saying that many of Mazzini's supporters came to believe that you and Cavour were the only hope to successfully unite Italy?
Yes, and others thought his goals were not radical enough.
Was Prime Minister Cavour really such a brilliant strategist?
He was ambitious and often discourteous to me, but he knew how to make the most of any situation.
How so?
Take, for example, the Crimean War, a conflict that did not concern my country at all.
We enter with Cavour and his deputy.
Today we must discuss our nation's role in the war with Crimea. When Tsar Nicholas attacked Turkey, he believed he could enlarge Russia as the great powers of Europe sat back and watched. He was wrong. France and Great Britain have entered the war in Turkey's defense.
This isn't our fight. How does this affect Piedmont?
If Piedmont must be taken seriously by the European powers, we must be involved in European affairs. I propose that we join with Britain and France in their fight against Russia.
But why should we send our young men to fight and die in Crimea if we have no interest there?
Italy will never be free from Austrian domination without the goodwill and assistance of France and Great Britain. Here is our opportunity to put the Western powers in our debt.
What is the position of Austria?
For now, Austria is remaining neutral, but France and Britain are working to convince Emperor Francis Joseph to bring Austria into the war on their side.
You mean you want us to join a war in which we could be allied with Austria?
It could happen, but consider the alternative. We stay out of the war, Austria joins France and Britain to defeat Russia. Then what do you think would be the chances of France and Britain helping us kick their ally Austria out of Italy?
No chance. Never. They wouldn't.
But if we join the war and win, we will have a seat at the peace conference. We'll be able to raise the issue of Italian independence, and the great powers will have to listen.
Hear, hear.
Let us join the war and take our position among the great powers of Europe.
Bravo. Viva Victor Emmanuel.
All in favor of joining the Crimean War against Russia, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. It is decided. Let us mobilize for war. We have taken the first step towards our destiny.
We enter with Cavour and Napoleon III in a not-so-secret meeting.
Say, aren't you Napoleon III, Emperor of France?
Why, yes. Count Cavour, isn't it? What a surprise to run into you here at the health spa.
What a coincidence that we both happen to be here taking the waters at the same time.
Isn't it, though?
As long as we're both here, there are a few things I've been meaning to discuss with you.
I've been hoping to chat with you, too.
I was glad to hear that you weren't injured in that assassination attempt. I fear that revolutionaries like Orsini will continue to cause trouble as long as the people of Italy remain oppressed by foreign rulers.
I agree. As long as Mazzini keeps inspiring these radicals, no government is safe.
That's why Piedmont needs your help to drive the Austrians out of Italy.
I'm listening.
You help Piedmont in a war against Austria. If we win, Piedmont gains control of Lombardy and Venetia. In return for your help, France get Nice and Savoy.
That sounds promising, but France will not join a war of aggression by Piedmont. We will, however, come to your defense if Austria declares war on you.
I believe that can be arranged.
Then we have an agreement. I hope you've enjoyed your visit to Plumberry's.
It's been very refreshing. Thank you.
We return to a later date with Victor Emmanuel and the reporter.
Was Cavour actually able to provoke Austria into declaring war?
Yes, he ordered an immediate build-up of the Piedmontese army, openly recruiting soldiers from among the citizens of Austrian-controlled lands. I gave a speech denouncing Austrian oppression of Italians. The Austrians walked right into the trap. First, they demanded that we demobilize our army, and when we refused, they declared war, just as Cavour had planned.
Did France come to your aid?
Yes, and with their help, we won decisive victories against the Austrians.
So how did you acquire southern Italy?
For that, I must give due credit to the revolutionary general Giuseppe Garibaldi and his patriotic Red Shirt army.
Who is Garibaldi?
He was a revolutionary and a patriot who made a name for himself fighting in South America for the independence of Uruguay. On May 11, 1860, Garibaldi and his red shirts landed unopposed at Marsala in Cilicia and began to march towards Palermo. As they advanced, Sicilian citizens flocked to join them.
The Redshirts and the Neapolitan soldiers take their places facing each other across the valley.
Major Sforza, commander of the Neapolitan battalion, underestimated the abilities of Garibaldi's men, believing that they would flee at the first sign of military might. He put his men through a series of drills before their eyes, but instead of running in fear, the Redshirts laughed and cheered from the opposite hill.
Attention, right face, forward, march, halt.
Seeing that the Redshirts were standing firm, Sforza hesitated, not wanting to give up his hillside position. Finally, he ordered a charge.
Forward charge.
Hold your fire, men. Don't shoot till they're right on top of you.
Since their guns took up a minute to reload. Once the Napoleonic soldiers got in close range of the Redshirts, they found themselves fighting hand-to-hand with bayonets. The Neapolitan army began to fall back, and soon broke into full retreat.
They're not mortal men. They're devils. They fight with bayonets, not guns. They can't be killed. Beware the red devils.
Viva Garibaldi, hero of the two worlds. Viva Victor Emmanuel. Viva l'Italia. In the name of Victor Emmanuel II, I declare myself the dictator of Sicily. Cut to the debate on Garibaldi with Cavour and his deputy.
Garibaldi has declared himself dictator of the two Sicilies and is making preparations to march on Rome. He has become too powerful, and an attack on Rome would bring France into the conflict to protect the Pope.
What can we do? Garibaldi's a hero to the people throughout Italy and the world.
First, we must annex Sicily and Naples to Piedmont without delay.
Here, here, we should hold plebiscites in Sicily and Naples. Surely the people will vote to join Piedmont.
Yes, and if the citizens vote to become subject of Victor Emmanuel, Garibaldi will have to accept their wishes. All in favor of annexing any territory that votes to join Piedmont, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. It is decided. Secondly, we must send a Piedmontese army to seize the Papal States before Garibaldi can lead his red shirts into Rome.
But won't Napoleon III oppose our invasion of the Papal States?
We'll leave Rome and the surrounding area to the Pope. I have Napoleon III's assurance that if we stay away from Rome, France won't intervene.
Then we have nothing else to lose.
All in favor of sending our army to the Papal States?
Aye.
All opposed? It's decided. The next time we meet, it will be as the Chamber of Deputies of Italy.
We return to a later date with Victor Emmanuel and the reporter.
But you still don't have Venetia or Rome. What was Cavour's next move?
Sadly, Cavour had made his last contribution to Italian unification. On June 5, 1861, he died of cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 50.
So he didn't live to see all of Italy united?
No, and we missed his leadership. In the following decade, I made a different prime minister every year.
What happened next? Did you invade Rome?
No, once again, a foreign power helped us to achieve our goal. This time, it was Prussia, and the prize was Venetia.
That's the first we've heard of Prussia.
Like the Italians, the German people were divided into many states, but by the 1860s, the German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck was busy planning to unite the German states under Prussian rule.
How did that concern Italy?
His first step was a war with Austria. In 1866, Bismarck met with my Prime Minister Alfonso La Marmora.
A meeting between Bismarck and La Memoria. Before I can unite all of Germany under Prussian rule, I must eliminate Austrian influences in the German states.
And how do you plan to do that?
Prussia will go to war with Austria, but we need Italy's help. If Italy joins Prussia, then Austria will have to fight a war on two fronts, forced to fight both our enemies at once. Austria will surely lose the war.
In return for our help, Italy must get Venetia.
Of course.
I will discuss the matter with my king.
We return to a later date with Victor Emmanuel and the reporter.
And so it went. We joined the conflict, known as the 6 Weeks' War. In 1866, and when Austria was defeated, Venetia was ours.
Only Rome was left. How did you get the Pope to give it up?
Pope Pius IV would never give up his rule of Rome voluntarily, but all that stood between him and Italy was the French army. And in 1870, Napoleon III went to war with Prussia, needing all of his soldiers to fight Prussia. He withdrew the French troops from Rome. My Italian army moved in.
Pope Pius IX at the gates of the Vatican. Victor Emmanuel has asked me to surrender my temporal power peacefully. This is something I can never do, especially to that bastardio Emmanuel. I, Pope, must never be the subject of a king. How can I have the freedom to lead the Roman Catholic world if he must obey a secular ruler? I will not surrender without a fight, and if Victor Emmanuel takes this city, I will remain a prisoner inside the walls of the Vatican. Yay!
Viva la Pope!
We return to a later date with Victor Emmanuel and the reporter.
But the papal troops were no match for the army of Italy, which entered the city on September 20th, 1870. Rome was ours. Once again, Rome became the capital city of a great state. The Risorgimento was complete.
Thank you so much, Your Majesty, for your time.
You are dismissed. I must now attend to important affairs of the state, including Miss Vittoria Guerrieri.